In my previous videos, I have attempted to debunk some of the claims made by people who think the moon landings were faked by NASA. This is the first of a small group of videos I plan to make which show some of my favorite examples of evidence that we did go. Of course, the evidence supporting the moon landings is irrefutable to all but the most ignorant and conceited of conspiracy theorists. But here I have chosen NASA video clips which have actually been used by the hoax nuts in their flaccid and ill-conceived attempts to denigrate one of the greatest achievements of all time and falsely accuse and insult thousands of talented and dedicated people who made it a reality. This clip is interesting because it has two features which deserve mention. First, hoax accusers like to claim that everything was too perfect. Photographs were all perfect, missions went off flawlessly, but we see here that despite their extraordinary talents and status, these astronauts are just as human as the rest of us.
And Tony, the probe is out of the ground up to P8.
Watch as Commander Young snags a cable with his foot, irreparably damaging the heat flow experiment.
Okay, it's between P7 and D8.
Okay, Baker 7 and 8. Copy, fine.
Charlie, what? Something happened here. What happened? I don't know. Here's a line that pulled loose. Uh-oh. What is that? What line is it? That's the heat flow. Pulled it off. I don't know how that happened. Go loose from there? Yeah. God almighty. Now I'm wasting my time. God, I'm sorry. I didn't even know it.
Copy that, Nelson.
It's sure going. It broke right at the connector. The wire came off at the connector.
Okay, we copy.
It would take an extraordinary imagination and rather tenuous grasp of reality for anyone to believe this was faked.
God almighty. Now I'm wasting my time. God, I'm sorry.
Keep in mind, these transmissions were live and being received by stations simultaneously all over the world. Stations which had to aim their receivers at the moon to get them.
I'll go do the, Oh, rat. I'm sorry, Charlie. God, I didn't know it.
Nobody cares anymore about that heat flow experiment, but what happened next might today be considerably more significant. Just seconds later, probably in a moment of disappointment, Young flipped a piece of fabric away with a rod. Little did he or any other astronaut ever figure that one day people would doubt their achievement, but this brief act of frustration could, ironically, turn out to be one of the most convincing proofs that we really did go to the moon.
If you want to know that core hole, and we put that chuck on, that's your...
Remember, this video is in real time. Let's do a detailed analysis. My Pinnacle program runs this at 25 frames per second and is 104 frames long. So from the time the object left the ground, it took 4.2 seconds until it landed. The original NASA video of the same duration was only 40 frames. We can check the peak of the object's trajectory to see how close to the time midpoint it occurs. If this was in an atmosphere, the object would reach its peak well before halfway, floating down more slowly than it went up. Let's try to estimate where the object reaches its peak. It appears to be about the 19th frame. This is very close to the theoretical midpoint. Allowing for some slight error at the ends of this clip, this could be exactly at the midpoint. This is much closer than one would expect if this object was thrown in an atmosphere. Due to the height of the camera, there is some perspective involved here, but not enough to skew the results significantly. Now, let's do some math. Stop the video if you want to check it. I will estimate an initial angle of 45 degrees, and we know the time the object was in flight was 4.2 seconds. The Moon's gravitational acceleration at the surface is 1.63 meters per second squared. The vertical velocity works out to be 3.42 meters per second. The midpoint should occur at 2.1 seconds, and in this gravity we can calculate that the object should reach an altitude of about 3.6 meters. I put the first and middle frames together and superimposed some measurements in estimated meters. This is not meant to be a precise measurement, but does show that the height is consistent with the figures. That's 11.8 feet, or about 13 feet from the ground. I'd like to see anybody on Earth launch some fabric to that height with a 2-foot rod and a little flick of the forearm that doesn't even extend above the shoulder, never mind having to do it in a bulky spacesuit. If we stick with the initial assumption of 45 degrees, then the horizontal velocity is also 3.42 meters per second. This would mean that the fabric went 14.36 meters or 47 feet. Want a steeper angle? Okay. At 60 degrees, it would travel 8.3 meters horizontally, and that's 27.2 feet. The point of all this analysis is to show that it is unreasonable to claim that this was done on the Earth. Some would have you believe NASA slowed the film down to make it look more like the speed one would expect on the Moon. Here is the actual speed that would be necessary if this was done on Earth. Even if they had a huge vacuum moon set based on the Earth's gravity of 9.8 meters per second, so that the slowed down version would look and sound right, the astronauts would have had to move and talk like this. My thanks to the prolific moon hoax video poster on YouTube, Green Magoos. It was in one of his pointless videos that I first saw this. The video just showed objects being thrown around on the moon with no commentary at all about what he thought was fake about them, but that's typical of his videos. My thanks also to these contributors to the Yahoo Answers Physics Forum for their help with the mathematical formulas. And that math and physics, to my surprise and delight, turned out not to be as hard as I remembered from back in the day when I was too busy falling in love and other guys, vastly my academic superiors, were doing other cool stuff, like this.